But happy Friday and welcome back to our Spotlight Friday series. This is our second session, and I am absolutely delighted to introduce our next guest. Just a reminder that this is not pre recorded. We are both very live. We are both don't know what we're going to say next, but we have a plan. So hopefully it will go very, very well. And I remember, Mareile, when we met for the first time. I can't remember how many years ago. How old is
Uh, yeah, I think it was in 2017 or something.
It
I
sounds right.
just, yeah, I just started at the Iconic, I think, or I started 2015, but it was relatively early days.
Well, it was very early. So I remember when you came to see me and I met you for the first time and you introduced me to the concept of Humi, I was blown away. And I remember thinking, why no one came up with it before? Because mystery shopping existed for many, many years. So why there was no replication of it for online? And maybe the world was waiting for you to start the whole thing. So, and I know that you've been very successful, and I also know that you launched the online CX in collaboration with Inside Retailer. I actually use your report and include all your stats in my articles and newsletters and posts as well. So sometimes I'm not allowed to tag you, but so you know that it's coming from you. So thank you so much. And welcome to Spotlight Fridays. I can't wait for this conversation. The spotlight is on you. Take it away.
Thanks, and I think first of all, thanks a lot for having me. As you said, we do have a longer history, and I do always think we have some similarities. Not being native to Australia, but coming here and kind of making things work. So it's kind of nice to have some chats outside of just the work side. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me here and tell a little bit more about my story and about Humi, but also give you guys some practical tips and things which are very often overlooked.
I actually don't think you need an introduction. I don't know if there is anyone who doesn't know you, but just in case they don't, maybe let's just start there.
Yeah, let's start there. So as you can all hear, I have a lovely German accent. I moved here in 2015, helping building up the Iconic. And that's very much my background. So I've always been working in retail and predominantly in e-commerce. And yeah, that's how I landed in Australia because I used to work at Zalando before. And I've been working there 5 years as CCO, and that actually triggered my idea for Humi. So I was sitting in our monthly NPS meetings with the exec team, trying to understand what the NPS is telling us. It's just a number, and everyone kind of panicked when the score dropped and was like super happy and heading shoulders when the score went up. But actually, we were just sitting there and no one had an answer to it, why it actually happened. And the question came up, and are we actually better than competitors? But that's not on us to say that, right? Like that there would be thousands of people out there deciding if the Iconic has a better experience, or Maya or David Jones, or God knows who it might be. So all these things came together, and it led to endless projects at the Iconic with, in very often, like in most cases, with no real outcome, because we spend an incredible amount of time on validating what we assumed was good or bad. So one day I thought, this is just shit. Retailers should have a better measurement to really understand the online experience, and why is it so hard? You have KPIs for all other metrics in the company. You look at your profit, at your sell through, at your return rates, at your discount, and so on. Everything has kind of a number attached to it, but you can follow the story and why and how it comes about. So I was just thinking, well, if retailers use mystery shoppers for their stores, why don't we use online mystery shoppers for the entire end-to-end online experience? So we don't have to rely on just biased feedback of customers who've shopped with the Iconic 100 times before. And we don't have to annoy them with kind of surveys, but also we have the opportunity to get an end-to-end picture. Finally, the whole organization is talking about the same metrics and not everyone pulling bits and pieces here and there and trying to make sense of it. And lastly, I was thinking, well, and when we can do that, the same journey for the competitors, so we can help retailers to understand down to a very granular level um, how they benchmark against their competitors, and finally get an answer to the question, who actually does have the better experience? Is it us or someone else? So that's how it all came about. And I think to your point, we started digging into thinking surely there's some online mystery shoppers out there, and we couldn't find anyone worldwide, nowhere. And we're thinking this just can't be possible. Like, it's so easy to explain what we're doing. We are online mystery shoppers, but haven't existed before. So that's how it all started about 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years.
Yeah, about probably like we the first idea probably 3.5 years, and then we went doing a bit research and kind of coming together. Are we really going to do that? It's not always great fun to be a founder, and it's not always great fun to deal with VCs and whatever. So yeah, but we just did it. Everyone left their corporate jobs and and said like, okay, well, it's just a new chapter starting, and that was
And here
good
you are,
fun. It still is good fun.
uncovering the gaps for online CX, my favorite subject. Look, I was a recipient of your services at one of the brands that I used to work for, and it was very impactful for us. We received a very comprehensive report, and we've done a lot of amendments to our online CX to make sure that it's seamless. So it was very helpful. And ever since then, we've been in touch and we've been very good friends. And I'm very happy to support you on this journey. I think you're doing an amazing job. So let's just focus on the challenges and the problems that you solve for brands and for businesses. So when someone wakes up in the morning thinking, I have this problem, I'm going to call Mareile and I'm going to contact Humi. So what is that trigger for them?
The trigger is, I'd say, really understanding what is actually going on in my online store, and beyond that journey, not just the store, but what is the customer feeling. And what I hear a lot from people reaching out to us is like, oh, we want to understand the why behind the performance, because there are lots of tools out there giving you KPIs. Like, for example, you do see your bounce rate, where people bouncing, but do you know why? And that's really what we're here for. We're giving you context on everything what is happening. So our mystery shoppers assessing 200 data points across the end-to-end journey, but they're leaving the qualitative feedback. They surely rate you, but they're saying this was good, this wasn't good because of these and these reasons. And we really have the opportunity to ask questions you can't really ask your customers, like, are there any reasons which would make you leave the website? So now, through collecting that feedback, we give context to the bounce rate you might see in your metrics. The same as we always had the question at the Iconic, we have 50% of shoppers, they're coming once and then they're not active shoppers anymore by definition. Like, if you shop once in 12 months, you're defined as active customer. So we found out we have a huge amount of people, they come once and never again. And now, obviously, that went again into another guessing spiral. Where are all these people going? And like someone said, oh, maybe they all moved back to the UK. That's probably not the truth, but that's where we really add context. So if you run an online business, which pretty much every retailer does, there's also offline stores, and you really want to understand what is going on in my online shop and where does the friction lies, where do people stumble across things, then that's a good start to contact us.
This is such a no-brainer, right? I just can't even imagine. You probably don't even have to market yourself because I think that just the moment you mention the concept, like everyone would be signing up. Is this the case?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd say everyone signing up, that would be a dream. It's not everyone, but I always say eventually, sometimes it's not the right timing for people. And they're deep down in projects. What we see a lot is obviously people wanting to sign on before replatforming and then after replatforming to see the impact. But I'd say we do have a very good conversion rate, which probably sits at, oh yeah, well, I don't want to break here. You can't jinx it, but it's very high. um, the online CX index, which we've launched with Inside Retail together last year, very at the very end of September, has given quite a lot of exposure. So we're ranking the top online 100 online experiences in Australia at any point in time, and they obviously the scores are a bit fluctuating and also changing over time. It's a live dashboard basically, and that basically led to the fact that lots of people reached out to us and saying, where do you get this data from? We did have a few reaching out to us saying, please take me off the index. And we only showcase 100, like and our internal list is much longer, so you don't get to see the very bottom ones.
You just reminded me that phrase in the movie, you can't handle the truth. So if you can't handle the truth, yes, remove me from the CX Online Index.
Yeah, and I usually don't do that. It's like, people write reviews. If you go to a restaurant and there's something good and something maybe not so good, like no one can hold you back to write a review, right? And I'd say our reviews are kind of in-depth reviews and voted by a network of about 1,500 online mystery shoppers across Australia. That's just what it is. We don't integrate with any data. We basically push people through the process and capture all their feedback. So I'd say there are heaps of retailers out there that don't even know that they're being online mystery shopped. So I think at any point in time, it's roughly around 700 retailers we're capturing. The score is only reflective of the past 90 days. As we know, retailers change a lot, so we don't use any old data. And not 700 within 90 days. So it's like that kind of goes in circles a bit, but that's kind of what we're doing. And
But it highlights so many opportunities, right? Like even if it's not a good news, it's still good to know. Do you display the returns processes clearly? Do you explain it properly? Do you highlight your shipping timelines? And in February, don't actually talk about the Christmas shipping cutoff dates, which I often still see on many websites. So because it's everyone's just indoctrinated in being too entrenched in the BAU, but without having that bigger picture and just act as a customer. I think you and I exchanged a few comments on LinkedIn recently about the fact that people need to unsubscribe and resubscribe and to their own brand just to see what the communication is like, because now with the likes of these automation journeys, there is
yeah,
so many things that is set and forget. So that's my advice always.
yeah, and that's very good
Reminder.
advice. And that's what we see. I mean, we pick up on hundreds of broken links a day. Like the Iconic had the other day, the refer a friend link didn't work, and all these things. That's usually links you don't typically click as an employee in the company. Yeah, so that's similar to what you said. My first advice would be always like there needs to be some regular checkpoints to click every single link you have on your website. It's I'd say pretty much every website has at least 2 or 3 broken links, which people forget about, or might be even linked to older campaigns and then oops, page not found, and so on. Someone who's like finding their way around on your website, they do click on these links, but not you don't do that. Like, what's the saying? You can't see the forest for the trees. Is that correct? And that happens quite
There in
often. Like,
person. I think so.
yeah,
It's my second
yeah.
language, the same it is for you.
Same here, and it's actually my third
Likewise,
language. I
actually.
like, yeah, but
Yes.
yeah,
But
no,
I
it's
think
different.
the responsibility needs to lie with one person. You always ask this question, who wants the customer? And the answers I get is everyone or it's no one, which
Yeah,
both are wrong. Because who is responsible for clicking on those links and
yeah,
making sure that everything just working perfectly? It's the same as you're walking into the physical store and that there is the store manager is responsible for making sure that everything just runs smoothly. So that's the
yeah.
ownership
No,
challenge.
totally right. And I do come across a couple of retailers. They say they try to do these things internally, also competitor benchmarking, but it's a lot of work. And I'll say, look, we you sit back and let us do the job. But it's you would have to send people through the entire process. But I mean, I wanted to give you some examples of what we really pick up on the most. So as we measure 200 data points along the journey, I'm not going to bore you because we're going to sit here another still in 3 days to go through that. But I thought I'll pick out very typical things which annoy people the most within the 8 dimensions we measure. Which then kind of gives you a little bit practical tips to really have a look into your own organization, who is responsible for that, who is looking into that. So if we speak about the very first dimension, we call it search and discovery. That's when really shoppers get to your website and they have a kind of a scenario in their head, such as I need a dress for a specific event or whatever it might be. They usually don't have an exact item in their mind, like I need a black short dress. Yes, sometimes, but the idea is obviously to inspire them, and that's a little bit different. Like, let's say if you go on an electronics website, it's probably a bit more demand driven. I need a new cable for something, as opposed to fashion. But what comes up a million times in that dimension is the multi-attributed search. So if you type in dress, for example, that pretty much works for everyone. If you type in blue dress, that's where it kind of starts to fall apart. But then if you add a third attribute, blue dress long or maxi or something like that, that's where it falls apart for, I'd say, almost the majority of retailers. And what we always see is like the navigation is used to narrow something down, but the search bar is really used to, especially if you have a lot of SKUs on your website, it's really used to find something a bit more specific to specific criteria. It's less about the inspiration, but you already have an idea. You need a blue maxi dress, for example. And the amount of bullshit coming up in this multi-attributed search is a lot. Like, even like we just started the grocery journey and going through websites like Woolies and Coles and so on, you name it. But even if you type in steak, for example, which is just one attribute, the first things you get is a sauce or like a steak sold and so on. Like the key product should come up. And I think most retailers link some related products, which can work, but it should not come up with, okay, related to your multi-attributed search, you have 4,960 products, because that doesn't help the customer at all.
Yes, and we are all about how can we help the customer. So I think everyone who is on this live stream and will be watching the replay now heard the message from Mareile loud and clear on how to improve the online CX. I'm very, very grateful for this conversation. You've got an incredible experience and the wealth of knowledge that I normally dive into myself. So thank you so much for being our guest. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Anna.
And
Thanks everyone for having me. And I saw someone ask when I had my last meatball. I'd say it was beginning of this week. I'm a frequent
yeah,
user.
that
Yeah,
was a
thanks
good
a lot for having me, Anna. And yeah, you all can log into our demo dashboard, which is live on the Humi website. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.